You'll be fine going to the hospital alone, right? I swear I'll send you straight to hell. My name is Lisa, and I'm currently 9 months pregnant. It's my first time giving birth, so while I'm filled with anxiety, I feel truly blessed about welcoming a new member into our family. My husband, David, is a white-collar worker and has weekends off. However, he doesn't offer much support around the house or help with shopping. This is because he usually goes back to his parents' home on weekends. David has a deep bond with his in-laws, and since their home is nearby, he spends almost every weekend there without any specific reason. Since becoming pregnant, I've been cautious about lifting heavy objects. For instance, when buying heavy items like rice, understanding friends often help out. My daily routine starts by waking up early, preparing breakfast for David, and seeing him off to work. Afterward, I do the cleaning and laundry, and then head out for any necessary shopping. Once I return home, I start prepping for dinner. Only after finishing these tasks can I finally have some relaxation time. Since taking maternity leave, I've taken up a new hobby, blogging. Every day, I write a diary accompanied by photos I take, such as meals, the blue sky, flowers blooming in the garden, and more. Many friends and acquaintances leave comments, and these moments of journaling have become small daily joys for me. One evening, as I was preparing dinner, my husband returned home as usual. He carelessly placed his bag and jacket on the sofa, and I tidied them up, hanging them on a coat hanger. "Welcome back. I made hamburgers for dinner. I'm going to take a bath," I said. Responding curtly, he headed straight for the bathroom. 3 years have passed since we got married, and there has been little kindness or consideration from him. I occasionally wonder if this is truly what a marital relationship should be like. But I've resigned myself to it. When David returned in his pajamas, I handed him a drink. "Where's the beer?" he asked, glancing at the bar. I hinted, "Sorry, I forgot to buy it today. I'll get some tomorrow." "Seriously? Go to the convenience store now." His demeanor changed immediately, and he spoke with evident anger. I was irritated. Why was he asking his pregnant wife to do this? If you want it so badly, why don't you go get it yourself? It's hard for me to move around with this big belly. At that moment, he became even angrier and started shouting, "You're the one who forgot to buy it. It's your job to fix that mistake. Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you get special treatment." My mother always said it's important to keep moving for the sake of health. Knowing that he doesn't calm down easily when he's angry, I reluctantly decided to go to the convenience store. Once I arrived, I bumped into Sarah, a neighbor. "Oh, Sarah, good evening." "Good evening, Lisa. Did you forget to buy something too?" "I ran out of sauce, so I came here." Sarah's cheerful voice slightly lifted my spirits. "My husband really wanted beer, and he told me to buy it. Why didn't he just go himself?" That's what I said, but it didn't get through to him. "It sounds like you're having a tough time, Lisa." After walking together for a bit, Sarah and I parted ways at a crossroad. When I returned home, David was lounging on the sofa, watching TV, having not even cleaned up after dinner. "Why did it take you so long? What were you dawdling around for? Give me the beer." David's disgruntled voice and his insensitive remarks made my heart ache. However, I handed him the beer without a word and began cleaning up after the meal. How could he say such things to me, especially when I'm pregnant? I felt the urge to retort, but I didn't want another shouting match, so I remained silent. Afterward, I had my dinner, took a relaxing bath, and headed to the bedroom. The next morning, David acted as if nothing had happened. It seems he's the type to forget everything after a good night's sleep. However, I couldn't forget his words from the previous night, and I consciously ignored him. "Why are you making that face so early in the morning? Don't take it out on me. I'm heading to work now, so be a bit considerate. You know the importance of appreciation, right?" Due to what he said, I was filled with the urge to retort, "That applies to you, doesn't it?" But out of shock and disbelief, all I could do was sigh deeply and see him off. "Be careful, right? I won't eat dinner tonight. See you." Without any explanation, David left in a hurry. After seeing him off, I took care of household chores and went shopping as usual. However, since David mentioned he wouldn't be having dinner, I decided to prepare something simple just for myself. Then, as I was about to start my meal alone in the evening, I heard David's unexpected return and rushed to the entrance. "I'm back. Thanks for your hard work, but you said you didn't need dinner today, right?" "Yeah, but my drinking party got canceled. I'm hungry. You have something to eat, right?" "Well, I only prepared a meal for myself today." Upon hearing this, David's face contorted with anger. "Didn't you even consider the possibility I might come back? This is unbelievable." Saying that, he moved to the dining table, and upon seeing the dinner I prepared, his mood worsened. "What do you call this a meal? I seriously question if you're properly doing your duties as a housewife. Don't waste the money I'm working for. I quickly prepared something for myself. Please don't get mad like this. Maybe you should learn proper cooking from my mom. Honestly, I've always found your cooking lacking." Again, he always compares me to his mother. Doesn't he realize how hurtful these comparisons can be? "I can't eat this. Go buy something." Hearing this, my heart sank further. What does he think of me? It's already night, and I've taken a bath. Can't you go buy it yourself? Forget it. You forgot to buy beer yesterday, didn't prepare dinner today. It's so frustrating. I'm going back to my parents' place. David stormed out and left alone in the house. I strangely felt a sense of relief. The next morning, as I expected, I received an angry call from David's mother. "How can you not serve David a proper meal? This feels like moral harassment, if not worse." I explained what happened yesterday, but she wasn't accepting it. So I apologized and ended the call. After the call, my mood plummeted. Since David wasn't home, I decided to have a leisurely late brunch. However, the thought of David coming back tonight weighed on my mind. Considering yesterday's events, I decided to make tonight's dinner special. I shopped with more care than usual, picking out ingredients and adding David's favorite beer to the cart. I was determined to prepare a dinner that would earn David's praise. I shortened my blog update time a bit to allocate more time to cooking. After dedicating ample time to preparations, the table was set beautifully, as if it was a special occasion. Looking at it, I felt a sense of accomplishment and couldn't help but praise myself. With this, he should definitely be satisfied. I waited patiently in the dining room for David to come home, but as time passed, there was no sign of him. I tried contacting him several times via my smartphone, but there was no response, and I became more worried as the clock continued to tick. 1 hour, then 2 hours passed, and I began to get anxious. Did he possibly go to his parents' house? Thinking this, I called David's parents to check, but they said he hadn't come there either. I tried calling David multiple times, but still, there was no response. As midnight approached, just when I was considering contacting the police, a staggering David returned home. He seemed clearly drunk. "I'm home, hiccup." I rushed to the entrance in concern and found David lying on the hallway floor. "What happened? Are you okay?" Hearing my voice, he responded angrily, "Too loud, go away." He then staggered towards the dining room. When I tried to support him, he forcefully shook off my hand. "Don't touch me. Don't come near me with that ugly face. To think you're my wife." In his drunken state, he spat out those words and then just lay down right there. Those words were beyond shocking. Why? Why can't he consider others' feelings? His remarks hurt me deeply, and I was filled with thoughts of maybe he no longer sees me as family. Tears welled up in my eyes. I put so much effort into cooking, it was all for nothing. With that thought, I had my dinner alone and enveloped in loneliness. The next morning, David woke up as if nothing had happened. "My head hurts. I guess I drank too much." "But why did you leave me in the hallway? You chose to lie down there, David. It's not my fault. Aren't you my wife? At least take care of me when I'm drunk." David's words made me wonder why he always blames me right away. If you weren't going to eat at home, you could have at least let me know. I had prepared a nice meal, and I called you multiple times. Why didn't you answer? Then David replied nonchalantly, "My drinking party from the day before got rescheduled to yesterday. Do I have to report everything? Besides, you know how hard it is to pick up the phone during a gathering. Think about my situation. With every word David said, my heart got colder and my expectations of him diminished. That way, I won't feel hurt or disappointed anymore. This thought lingered in my mind that I'm taking a break and going back to my parents' home tomorrow. Being with you lately feels unpleasant and boring. Seeing David's attitude of looking down on me made me increasingly consider the option of divorce. Our baby is due soon, and my heart races in anticipation. Even though I've heard stories about the pains of labor from friends, my excitement to meet the new life inside me overshadows those concerns. The neighbors often encourage me with words like, "It's just a little while longer," which brightens my mood. Hey, want to go on a family trip soon after David returned home? He made a surprising suggestion. Really? But I'm talking about a family trip. My mom and dad want to join. I was taken aback. Why would parents make such a proposal? Tensions exist between me and David's parents whenever there's an issue concerning David. They tend to blame me, like the previous phone call incident. However, the sudden idea of a trip left me doubtful. I'm about to give birth soon, and traveling a long distance might be a bit risky. David replied, "How many times do I have to tell you? Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you're sick. My parents are thoughtfully inviting us. But what if something happens? It'll be fine. Everything's already decided. We'll go for 2 nights and 3 days next week." What? Next week is my due date. That's a bit. Just do as you're told. Prepare for the trip. End of discussion. David just expressed his opinion and then left the room. I'm in trouble now, I thought to myself. The next day, I sought advice from a close friend and explained the situation. She was concerned and said, "That's a bit too much." While I was contemplating how to decline the offer, the day of the trip suddenly arrived. Actually, I'm not feeling well today. I'm worried about the baby, so I'm going to rest at home. I tried to use that as an excuse, but David didn't seem convinced. Anyway, you can just rest in the car, and you'll be fine, right? Come on, bring the luggage. We're heading to my parents' house, so hurry up. As we headed to the car, I was worried and asked, "Is this really okay?" After loading our luggage into the car and sitting in the passenger seat, I felt warmth at my feet. Looking down, I noticed water spreading around them. Oh my water broke. I immediately informed David. "David, I think my water just broke. Please take me to the hospital quickly." Taken aback by the situation, David exclaimed, "Are you serious?" "Yes, I'm serious. We need to go to the hospital now. The baby might be coming." While trying to clean up the water with a towel in the car, David suddenly opened the passenger door. "David, what are you doing? We need to go to the hospital." "Get out, you're going to make a mess in the car." I was in complete shock. "What are you saying?" I said, "Get out. I need to clean the car." Then David forcefully pulled me out of the car. In this unbelievable situation, David said, "I can't believe this. We were supposed to be on a family trip. Just go to the hospital by yourself." I was too shocked to say anything as I called out to David, "Wait, how can you leave me here like this?" He drove away, leaving me behind. Feeling overwhelmed, I quickly dialed for an ambulance. When someone approached, asking, "Lisa, are you okay?" It was Sarah, looking concerned. Sarah immediately recognized my predicament and arranged for a special taxi, comforting me throughout. Grateful for her kindness, tears streamed down my face. Soon after, I safely arrived at the hospital, thanks to Sarah's help. On the way, she held my hand and cheered me up, staying by my side until I was taken to my room. While being transferred, I made a silent vow. I will make him pay for this. Even as labor pains grew, Sarah kept holding my hand. Furthermore, she contacted my parents, who soon arrived at the hospital and looked deeply concerned. Sarah whispered to them, "There's something I want to discuss." The 3 then left the room. As the labor pains intensified, my smartphone vibrated from a corner of the room. "Who is it?" I asked, and my parents responded with David's name. They looked displeased, but I took the call anyway. As soon as I answered, I heard a panicky David, "Help me." However, I was in no state or mood to converse with him and promptly ended the call. Despite my parents turning off my phone, David continued to send messages. As labor intensified, I was finally moved to the delivery room. After enduring the pain for some time, I finally heard my baby's cries. Exhausted, I saw my parents and Sarah standing before me with warm smiles. Relieved, I closed my eyes and rested. When I woke up after a few hours of sleep, I found myself lying in the hospital bed. Rubbing my eyes, I noticed my parents sitting next to me, their faces filled with concern. "Are you okay?" my mother asked gently, still feeling the weight of exhaustion. I couldn't muster the energy to sit up, while my father looked teary-eyed. My mother consoled him, saying, "The postpartum period can be exhausting." Witnessing this heartwarming scene, a smile formed on my face. "How's the baby?" I inquired. My parents informed me that the baby was undergoing some tests but would be back in the room soon. However, I noticed Sarah wasn't present. Responding to my unspoken question, my mother remarked, "Sarah left a little while ago." Thinking about how things might have turned out had Sarah not been there, a feeling of gratitude settled over me. I made a promise with my parents that after being discharged, I would visit Sarah to express my gratitude. Turning on my smartphone to inform my friends about the birth, I was met with an overwhelming number of missed calls, mostly from David. The sheer number left me momentarily stunned, but I felt no hope or expectation from his calls. So I closed the notifications without hesitation. One of my friends visited the hospital room to congratulate me on the birth. As she rejoiced and extended her genuine wishes, I opened up about the recent incidents with David. After hearing the story, she expressed both shock and anger, half-jokingly saying she'd like to punish him a bit. But she also emphasized that my health and rest were paramount, chatted with me for a while, and then left. My parents, already briefed by Sarah about the whole episode, asked, "What are you planning to do next?" I shared my thoughts about my relationship with David and told my parents I'm considering divorce. They respected my decision and provided their support. Upon my discharge, I planned to stay at my parents' house, where they had prepared a room for me. Meanwhile, David seemed to have visited the hospital, but as I had informed the hospital staff that I didn't wish to see him, he wasn't allowed in. The next day, Sarah came to my hospital room holding a fruit basket. "Sarah, you came!" I exclaimed with delight. "You seem to be recovering well, but remember not to overexert yourself. Postpartum fatigue can be quite profound," she advised. Feeling comforted by Sarah's words, I sighed with relief, taking the fruit basket from her. "Sarah, thank you so much for helping me. I don't know what would have happened if you weren't there." I expressed my deep gratitude as I bowed deeply. Sarah gently laughed, saying, "What's most important is that both you and the baby are healthy. I just want a small hand. Regardless, I'm forever grateful. Once things settle down, I'll come over to thank you properly." Sarah laughed warmly in response. "You know, I've talked to my husband about what happened. He seemed quite furious." From her words, I could somewhat deduce David's situation. "Sarah, I'm truly sorry for dragging you into this mess," I admitted. "Don't worry. Remember who you owe for being able to work at your current company. This incident is truly hard to forgive." At that moment, I heard a stern tone in Sarah's voice for the first time. Sarah was actually the wife of the CEO at the company where my husband worked. When we first moved to this residential area, I had no idea about this fact. However, as we frequently encountered each other at the local supermarket, shops, and occasionally at convenience stores, we gradually became closer. We even began to enjoy tea together, and during these sessions, I learned about the nature of her husband's job. On the other hand, my husband was completely unaware of this background. This was because he didn't even accompany me for our initial neighborhood greetings and didn't prefer interacting with our neighbors. Sarah had previously told me gently, "I don't want to cause any trouble, so don't tell your husband, and I had respected that request. Knowing that I was pregnant and still being forced to endure my husband's unreasonable behavior, Sarah had several times suggested, should I talk to my husband about this? However, I had always declined, not wanting to trouble her. But with this recent incident, perhaps even Sarah reached her limit. That's why my husband kept calling Sarah. I really can't thank you enough for everything. Sarah's strong words made me realize how fortunate I was to have someone who'd go to such lengths for me. I couldn't help but tear up. Seeing my reaction, Sarah once again gave me a warm smile. Lisa, you're a dear friend to me. I can't just stand by and watch when something like this happens to a friend. Our conversation was filled with heartfelt smiles. However, my husband's messages didn't stop despite the barrage of notifications. Online, I consciously ignored them all. Thinking about the divorce made my mind clear, and all I wanted was to think about how to live my life with my baby. As I was preparing to leave the hospital, a close friend visited my room, handing me her smartphone and saying, I want you to see this. Displayed on her phone was a post that had become a major topic on a certain social media platform. When I asked what it was about, she informed me that she had posted about my husband's recent actions on social media. My friend had a significant influence on social media with a massive follower count. One day, she received a reply to one of her posts. The follower who replied had, by chance, captured a video of the scene where I was yelled at by my husband after being let out of the car. The follower, wanting to protect my privacy, blurred my face in the video and, with my friend's permission, shared it online. The video spread like wildfire, and as a result, personal details about my husband and even his company were identified. Currently, my husband seems to be under a barrage of criticism online. What? I had no idea it had escalated to this level, my friend, smiling gently, remarked. Well, they brought it upon themselves, didn't they? My husband's actions and their consequences were all a result of choices he made. Furthermore, when one of my husband's friends confronted him about the incident, he reportedly excused himself, saying, I had a prior travel commitment with my parents that day, so I had no choice. Because of this statement, not only my husband, but also his parents began to face criticism online. The story spread even in the vicinity of my in-laws' home, and there seemed to be various topics related to my husband's parents circulating on social media. Suddenly, my phone started ringing. When I checked the screen, it was a call from my mother-in-law. That's for my mother-in-law. My friend, eyeing the screen of my phone with interest, suggested, why don't you pick up and give her a piece of your mind? However, I was so fed up that I felt no words to do so and decided to ignore it. Before I knew it, the missed calls log was filled with names of my husband, father-in-law, and mother-in-law. Ever since the incident was highlighted on social media, even the hospital staff seemed to be aware of my situation and started offering genuine support. Whether my husband or in-laws came to the hospital or called multiple times, the hospital staff didn't allow any contact with me. As my discharge date approached, I had one pressing worry: whether my husband and in-laws might be lurking outside the hospital. My parents reassured me, saying, you have nothing to worry about. But the thought of my precious baby being in danger left me anxious. However, that concern was quickly dispelled on the day of my discharge, as my parents were helping me with my belongings. I heard my husband's voice shouting, Lisa, followed by the loud voices of my in-laws. Suddenly, men in black suits surrounded me, forming a protective barrier. As I tried to understand what was happening, one of the men approached me, gently opening the car door and said, don't worry, we're here on Sir's request to protect you. It seemed my parents were already aware of this, as my mom said, smiling, didn't I tell you there's nothing to worry about? Believing her words, I felt relieved and smoothly got into the car. All the while, my husband and in-laws, overwhelmed by the presence of the bodyguards, couldn't come any closer. I can't find the words to express how grateful I am for Sarah supporting me like this. The only thing occupying my mind was how to reciprocate Sarah's kindness. My parents felt the same, saying in unison, "We have to find a way to show our gratitude to Sarah." Although my new life began smoothly and pleasant days continued, the contacts from my husband and in-laws never ceased. I mailed them the divorce papers, but there wasn't even a hint of acceptance. One day, my in-laws called our home. It seems my father answered, and they addressed him with the attitude of, "She became a part of our family, so no matter how she's treated, she shouldn't complain." When my father angrily retorted to their statement, it seems they were taken aback and quickly hung up. While discussing how to handle this with my parents, I decided that seeking professional assistance was the best course of action and resolved to consult a lawyer. Coincidentally, my father was acquainted with a lawyer, and when we explained our situation, he graciously promised to help. I informed the lawyer about the video circulating on social media and detailed past events. When the lawyer reached out on our behalf, my husband was initially taken aback. However, over time, he became defiant. "We'll solve marital issues ourselves. We don't need a lawyer," he argued in a fled tone. However, the lawyer calmly responded, "I'm acting upon Lisa's request. Any future communication should be directed to me. It's up to Lisa, my client, to decide whether or not she wants to involve a lawyer." My husband was at a loss for words, though initially refusing to divorce. When mediation and the possibility of a court case were suggested, the word court seemed to shake him, and he reluctantly agreed to the divorce. I have no interest in the child and have no intention of seeing them in the future, so I don't see why I should pay child support. As for property distribution, I did nothing wrong, he claimed irrationally. The lawyer calmly explained from a legal perspective, but my husband still seemed unconvinced. "In that case, it seems we'll meet in court," the lawyer suggested. My in-laws, who were listening nearby, appeared to panic and immediately agreed. When I was informed of this by the lawyer, I was shocked that I had ever married such a man. I had been communicating with Sarah since returning to my parents' home, and when I told her about the recent events, she playfully and gleefully suggested, "How about seizing your ex-husband's retirement pay? Garnishment is one way, right?" Feeling overwhelmed by Sarah's astuteness, a while later, I was contacted by the lawyer who conveyed that my husband wished to apologize in person. Wanting a satisfactory conclusion, I agreed to converse over the phone under the supervision of the lawyer. The day of the scheduled call arrived. On that day, I was accompanied by my parents and the lawyer. From the other end of the line, I heard, "Finally, you answer. Apologize now, and I'll forgive you. So come back home. Let's be a couple again. The house is a mess. I might lose my job, and everyone's looking at me coldly. All of this is your fault, so take responsibility." He continued to bombard me with accusations. Without being overwhelmed, I calmly chose how to react. When he said, "See, you can't even reply properly, truly a woman with no redeeming qualities," I finally responded, "Just so you know, this conversation is being recorded. I'll keep it as evidence. Goodbye." Hearing this, my husband's voice revealed his shock. "Wait, you recorded it? That's not fair, right? I was joking. I'm sorry. I can't live without you. Let's start over. We truly loved each other, right? I promise I'll try harder from now on." After hearing those words, I immediately hung up the phone. With the recorded data in hand, I handed it to the lawyer and asked, "Can you utilize this audio as evidence?" Shaking his head in disbelief, the lawyer remarked, "He truly is an incorrigible man." My parents, feeling the same as me, had firmly decided to sever ties with him. Seeing his behavior filled them more with astonishment and disappointment than anger. At some point, I realized I was slightly enjoying this drama, clinging to the little devilish side of me that emerged. The divorce procedures with my husband concluded smoothly. Both the property distribution and child support agreements went forward without a hitch, and the turmoil began to subside. Due to the information Sarah shared with her husband, the president of my ex-husband's company, he was promptly disciplined. The president, known for his family-oriented values, believed that an employee who couldn't protect his family couldn't be trusted by the company. David lost his job, couldn't make housing loan payments, and returned to his parents' home. His reputation was tarnished by the viral video, and he struggled to find stable employment, barely making ends meet with short-term part-time jobs. Rumors spread about his parents too, and according to reports from Sir's friends in the neighborhood, they seemed to live in perpetual unease. The cold societal judgment they faced, which exceeded my expectations, made me think that, surprisingly, this ostracization might be harder for them than any legal repercussions. With most matters settled and my health recovering, my parents, my baby, and I visited Sarah's home to express our gratitude. Both Sarah and her husband seemed genuinely happy and doted on my baby, making us feel warm and welcome. After that, Sarah and my mother became close friends. Similarly, Sarah's husband and my father got along very well, and our families grew close. Furthermore, Sarah and her husband's son was around my age, and to everyone's surprise, our relationship began to develop in an unexpected direction. A few years later, the idea that I might actually become a part of Sir family was something no one could have ever predicted. Life truly is full of surprises.